Hey friends, so I have some quiet time. This is so rare. I don't know what to do with myself. My husband came home like an hour early, and he needed to mow a few yards, so he went to go do that, and he took both of the boys. So it's just me and Khalyla, and Khalyla's asleep. I just wanted to kind of put you a little bit further back. I just wanted to talk about Khalyla's pregnancy. What? I really need sleep. Khalyla's birth a little bit. I'll try to remember to put pictures on here. I always forget, but I'll try to remember to put pictures. She was born August 18th. She weighed 9 pounds and something ounces. I don't know, 9 pounds. I forgot the ounces. She was 21 inches. I think she was 21 inches. She was a big baby, let me tell you. So she was born August 18th. She was born 36 weeks. At 36 weeks she was born. She was born early, very early, and she needed to go straight to NICU after, but I got to touch her. I had a C-section, the vertical this way, not this way, so I had to do this way. And surprisingly, that was way better than the regular C-section. In my opinion, that was, the healing process took a week. It healed up nicely. I didn't have, thank the Lord, I didn't have no complications with the after, the healing and all that. The only thing, I'm losing my hair. I have a bald spot here, but it's just hair. It'll grow back. So to start it off, I was fixing to be 35 weeks. So I was 34 weeks. I think in a day or two, I would be 35. And so I went to my doctor's appointment. I didn't go to my OB. I went to a different doctor. This doctor checked on her, not me. And there's a bee in here. Hold on. Okay, we got that worked out. So this is her doctor, the doctor that checks on her heart, her brain, all that stuff. And I had that doctor, and I had my regular OB. Man, I'm blind. So I went to the checkup, right? And it was just a regular checkup. And I remember I was ready to just get it over with, because I was tired. A week before that, this is gonna be long, so because it's a lot. A week before that, I'll try to post a picture. It's not that I don't care. It's just, I want you to see how big I was. A week before that, on the bottom of my stomach, it was my stomach, and then a bottom of my stomach was a pouch. A pouch had formed. And I don't know what it was. I've never had that before. I don't know what was going on. I don't know if I should be concerned, because this pouch that had formed had stretch marks, and the stretch marks were swollen. They were swollen. And so at this point, I was gaining weight very fast. Well, I guess this dress doesn't fit. Don't mind my mess, okay? I'm tired. But I am in my 3rd trimester. I am 7 months, almost 8 months pregnant. I don't look that big. I feel big, but I don't look that big. This dress don't fit. It's gonna have to work, because I want to go to the rodeo to eat. Okay, see you later. Say bye. Bye. When I first got pregnant, I weighed 248, I think. And then from this point to when I went to the doctor, I was 290, I think. Like, but I was gaining weight like very fast. And so I went and she did the sonogram, all that stuff. And she was like, well, just wait here. She's like, the doctor wants to talk to you. And I was like, okay. But she told me that the baby was fine, all that stuff. And so the doctor came in and very serious. Like, she was very happy, very like, she'd come in very happy. And this time she came in so serious. Like, she just got straight to the point. She's like, we have to admit you. She's like, it's not looking the way I want it to look. She's like, we're gonna have to admit you and just watch you overnight. Lady, I have 2 kids. I can't just, okay. I was like, well, just give me a little bit because I have to figure out home. Like, I have to figure out what's going on. And so I called my husband. I called everybody that I could think of. My mom, my in-laws, all that stuff. I got it taken care of and got admitted. They did all that stuff. They put the monitor on my stomach. I was there. And so then they monitored me and they monitored the baby. And so you talk about not getting any sleep. I didn't get any sleep that night. Like, it was constant. Like, I promise you, it was like every 10 minutes. Like, I'm so thankful for them. But every 10 minutes, they would come in and readjust. Come in and we need to check your blood. We need to check this and we need to check that. And oh my gosh, it was just a lot. And I understand, but it was just a lot. And so the next day, my doctor came in and he checked all my stuff and he goes, you're gonna have to stay. I was like, excuse me? He's like, you're gonna have to stay. He's like, you're gonna have to stay another day, probably a couple of days. We want to monitor you because then he started explaining to me what was going on. That I had double the fluid that I could. He's like, you can easily, your womb can like hold twins so easy because you have so much fluid. And he's like, that pouch that you have, he's like, that's filled with fluid. He's like, you have way above average fluid. He's like, and I was producing too much insulin because I don't know, whatever diabetes you get with pregnancy. I don't remember what it was. I had that, and I didn't know I had that because when I would go do my lab work, everything would come back normal. They would tell me that everything was normal, everything was perfect, everything was good. But in reality, it wasn't. I guess they were switching me and somebody else's charts because I told them, I was like, I wasn't getting none of that. And so, my blood sugar, I guess, was sky high. Like, it was high. And that they needed to control it because I was producing insulin and she was producing insulin and we were both producing insulin and it was too much for her. And that if he's like, we're gonna keep you a couple more days, he's like, just to watch you, to control your levels. He's like, once we do that, you can go home. So I was like, okay. So then I stayed there another night and then another night. And then that day, it was Friday. And I had turned 35 weeks already. And he came in and he goes, she's not staying on the monitor. He's like, she's moving too much. We need to have an accurate, like full 30 minutes accurate reading on her heart. He's like, it's very important that we do that. He's like, because she's growing too fast. He's like, she's gaining a lot of weight. And he's like, you're gaining a lot of weight. He's like, we're trying to figure out if we should induce you or I got distracted because the chickens are outside. I don't know if you can see them. Can you see them? I don't know if you can see them. I got distracted. Anyway, he's like, she's gaining weight, you're gaining weight at a very fast pace, and he's like, we don't know if we should keep her in or we should take her out. He's like, that's what we're trying to figure out. He's like, and during the weekend, we're going to figure out what we're going to do. He's like, and then come Monday, we'll tell you what we're going to do. So I was like, okay. Oh my gosh. And they had me on a very strict diet. They had me, I had to take insulin with a shot before I ate and at night. So 4 times, I think it was 4 times. And so I was there just by myself because my husband couldn't be there, and COVID, I could only have one person at a time. And it was, I mean, everybody was working, you know, people couldn't just come, you know, and so I was just there by myself, and just thoughts running through my head, like, what am I gonna do? Like, but she was fine. Like, she was moving. Like, oh my gosh, I felt so bad for the nurses. I mean, I swear, I think they dreaded coming into my room because it would take them a good solid 30 minutes just to get her on the monitor. Just like, and you could hear it so faintly, but they were like, oh, we can hear it. That's fine. That's good. Oh my gosh. I mean, it was, and I tried to remember to put pictures of what my stomach looked like, and my stomach was rashed and it hurt, and oh my gosh, it was just a lot. Like, and then I couldn't, like, I had to be on the monitor for hours at a time, like 6 hours straight, just there, just like laying there, like, and every time I would try to move and get comfortable, she would get off the monitor. And so here they come again, 30 more minutes trying to put her back on. And then finally, it was like on a Saturday night, I think. It was late, like early Sunday morning. I had told one of the nurses, like, God bless her. I told her, I was like, please. And at this point, I hadn't taken a shower because I had to just be on the monitor. I don't know why. I mean, well, yeah, but for that long, you know. And so I asked one of the nurses, I was like, please, I was like, can I just take this off for a couple hours and just, I need to reset. I need to just, it's driving me crazy. Like, being here for 5-6 hours straight, laying here, it is driving me insane. I was like, I've read, I've watched TV, I've talked to myself, I had my conversations with myself, I've called everybody I know. Like, I was going insane just sitting there. And so finally she's like, yeah, she's like, you just a couple hours. She's like, but we need to get you back on the monitor. But it was like a blissful couple hours, like, man. So then Monday comes and my doctor comes in real early in the morning, 7 o'clock. And he comes in and the insulin doctor comes in. And they're both talking how my levels did during the weekend and how it was good, that my levels were back to normal, that my sugars were back to normal, that everything was good, and that I could probably go home that Monday. And I was like, finally, yes, I'm going home. And so then Khalylas happened. She would not stay on the monitor that whole day. She was just not having it, which now that I think about it, maybe it was for the best that she wasn't on the monitor. But I swear, from that morning to Tuesday morning, I'm probably 15 minutes good on the monitor that whole day. And like, she was not having it. I mean, I was frustrated. The nurses were frustrated. We're trying to get her on. Like, she just was not having it. So then Tuesday comes, my doctor comes in, and at this point, him and the insulin doctor and the doctor that was checking on her were all communicating on what they were gonna do. Either keep her in or take her out. The doctor that was checking on her wanted to keep her in at least 38 weeks. She's like, I want her to stay in for 38 weeks. That way she's fully developed. That way we have no problems. But my doctor was like, screw that. I'm not having that, because if we keep her in, there could be more problems. Her heart can be enlarged. She could have jaundice like a long time, like it could affect her brain, like he's like, I'm not having that. He's like, so he came in, and my insulin doctor came in, and again Tuesday, and he's like, yeah, we're not having that. He's like, I'm not gonna keep her in for that long. He's like, we'll watch you more, and when you hit your 36 weeks, we're gonna induce you. And I was like, okay. So here I am, staying again. So then I hit 36 weeks, and I get induced, and I was so happy that I was getting induced, but at the same time, I was so scared because he told me, he's like, you know, this is your third child. He's like, you're over 30. He's like, and technically, he's like, you're obese. He's like, and we're hoping for the best. He's like, we're praying that everything comes out good. He's like, and he's like, I've had experience with it. He's like, and I'm not doing this by myself. He's like, I'm having another colleague come in and help me with it just to make sure that everything goes good, just to be sure that you don't bleed out, you don't hemorrhage, just to be sure that your baby girl's okay, that we do everything in our power to be sure that she's okay and you're okay. And it just made me feel so much better, because when he said hemorrhage, I'm like, I could die and I'm not ready to die. And so, and just thinking about everything that could happen to her, and just, I don't know, it was just a lot to think about. And so he made me feel a lot better, knowing that he's like, that he and this other doctor made a plan of what they were gonna do, and he like laid it out on the table, the good and the bad. He's like, I don't want you to go in there and be surprised because I didn't tell you something that was gonna happen. He's like, I need to tell you everything that's gonna happen. And I like that. My personality is, you need to tell me the good and the bad. You need to tell me what might happen, what could happen, because I need to prepare. I need to prepare myself. So he told me all that. And so, had the C-section, and everything went good. Like, I don't remember a lot. The only thing I remember was going in there and then putting the numbing thing in my back, laying down, and telling my husband, make sure when she's out that she's breathing and she's okay. And that's all I remember. I don't remember nothing else. The next thing I remember was waking up in the recovery, and that's it. But my husband told me that I was saying things in the surgery to my OB. And then I was telling him, his name is Dr. Martin. I was like, Dr. Martin, I was like, if you want to take some fat out and put it in my butt, you can. And I told him, Dr. Martin, did you order the pizza already? Did you order it? I'm ready for my pizza. I mean, I was just telling him things that I shouldn't have been telling him. And just telling him, if you want to take out some fat, you can. If you want to cut me open and take out the fat and give it to somebody else that needs it, that he could. And that my husband said that Dr. Martin and his colleague were just laughing, and that Dr. Martin had told my husband, I'm glad that she has a positive outlook, and that it makes his job worth it. And at that point I was just bawling. And so I didn't see him after that. So the next thing I remember was going into the recovery room, and the next thing I remember is my husband telling me, you have to breathe. And I'm like, why? I just remember waking up and him telling me that, and then just knocking out again. And then the next thing I remember was me being in my room. And so I told my husband, I was like, why did you tell me that I had to breathe? And he said, because when I would go to sleep, I would stop breathing. That the little thing would just be a line, like I wasn't breathing. And supposedly I went into the NICU and held Khalylas and just was looking at her and kissing her. And I was like, I don't remember any of that. I don't remember kissing her. I don't remember holding her or anything. He's like, and we took you with the bed. He's like, you wanted to see her, so they took you in there to see her. And I don't remember that. And then I stayed for 5 days more. And while she was in the NICU, while I was there in recovery and she was in the NICU, she wasn't doing any kind of progress. She wasn't she was just sleeping. That's what she was doing. Like, she would stop breathing sometimes. Like, she wasn't doing anything. And so they were checking her heart, and one of the little, I call it pipe, one of the little pipes that put blood into the heart was big, like it was enlarged. And that before I tell you that, they did 2 scans and both of them came out that way. And they're like, we have to do a 3rd one. And they're like, and at this point, we're going to see her, every day and praying over her and just speaking life into her and just telling her that she's strong and that God made her strong. And the nurses, we have hope. And I was like, yeah, God made her strong and God made her this way. And I know she's going to come out. And so the last day that I was in the hospital, I was getting discharged. And then the main nurse calls me. She calls me in my room. Like, she doesn't come into my room, she calls me. And she told me that the 2nd scan that came in was the same. That it wasn't growing more, but it wasn't going back to normal. That it was the same. And so they were concerned because nothing was happening and that they didn't have the equipment to help her if it continued that way, and they couldn't do surgery on her there. And when she said surgery, oh my gosh, my whole world just collapsed. My whole world was just excuse me, surgery? What? And I was trying really hard not to cry when she was telling me and explaining it to me, and that they had to transfer her to a NICU 2, which is, I guess, in either Dallas or somewhere else. And she's like, but we're gonna wait and see another week to see what it does. So I told her, I was like, so she's not coming home? And she goes, no. She's like, there's no way she'll be able to come home because she's not eating out of a bottle. She's still on oxygen, and we're looking at her heart. It was a lot. And so I was crying and crying and crying. And then I told my husband, I was like, let me just take a shower. I need to just think. And so I took a shower there in the hospital while my husband was getting everything ready. And I was just crying and just telling the Lord, why? Why did you? And I'm going to be honest, I was questioning him. Why did you bring her on this earth if she's going to be suffering? If she's going to suffer, why did you put me through all this? Why did you put me through 8 months of me feeling her and her growing, and then me being in this hospital bed and all the pain and everything that I went through to get to this point, and she's suffering. What is the point? What is the point? There's no point in this. Why did you do it? And I remember when I had Zeke, it was not really the same thing. Zeke just had jaundice, and they had to watch him for a couple of days, and by the 5th day he was already coming home. But I remember with Zeke, I remember going in there, and I was so I felt in that moment with Zeke, I felt so strong in the Lord, and I was praying over him and praying over those babies and praying over the nurses, and just he's gonna come out of this. He's gonna come out, and just speaking life to Zeke and just telling him how strong he is and telling him what God made in him and where he came from. And all that came back into remembrance when I was in the shower, and I just wiped my tears, and I'm like, no, I am not taking this. And my husband's like, open the door, what's wrong? I was like, no. I was like, I'm not standing for this. This is the enemy. And I was like, I'm not gonna accept this. I'm not accepting what the enemy is putting out there. And the enemy doesn't have a hold of her. And like, I was basically almost screaming. And so I told my husband, I was like, go put the stuff in the car and meet me in the NICU, and we're gonna pray over her. We're gonna pray over all these babies, and we're gonna pray over the nurses. And so we did. We went in there and we stood firm and we prayed over her. The chickens are fighting. We prayed over her and we prayed over those babies and we prayed over the nurses and everything. And so we went home, and it was hard coming home with no baby, with just a C-section scar. And that next week, we called every day. I called like 3 times a day just to check on her. And every day she would eat just a little bit more. And they finally took her off oxygen. They finally took her off the IV. They took her off everything. Like, the only thing is she wouldn't eat. And I'm like, oh, she's just lazy. She's just lazy. She don't want to eat. She stayed in there for 24 days. And she had her own little room because there was other babies being born way worse than her. And they asked me if, like, do you want her to have her own room? You know, because, well, yeah, of course. And so she had her own little room, and I would visit her and talk to her and pray over her and pray over those babies when I would walk out. And it was long. It's 26 minutes. It was long. It was a long, very long process. And finally I got the call. I remember I woke up very sad that day. I woke up very sad, not like depressed, I just missed her. And I remember just crying. And I took a shower that morning and I was crying, and I'm like, Lord, I know that she's gonna come home. You know, it's just taking forever because I just want to hold her, and I just want to, you know, just be with her. And I remember it was on a Saturday, and my husband had yards to do, and I was like, I don't want to be here at home by myself, and so I went with him, and I stayed in the truck because, what am I gonna do? Just stand there. So I stayed in the truck, and I remember me and Zeke were listening to Christian music, and we're just singing, and then the NICU calls. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're calling. What happened? So I real quick answered it, and they're like, we're just calling for Khalylas that she's going home tomorrow, and we just want to ask if you want to come and stay the night with her. That way you can get her routine down of what we're doing here, and that way, you know, you can take her home tomorrow. Yeah. I rushed over there, did everything that I did, you know, with her routine, did the CPR class, all that stuff. And then I brought her home. And when I brought her home, when she was born, she weighed 9 pounds. And when I brought her home, she was 11 pounds, almost 12. But she was like 11 something. 11 is so many ounces. And we're just so happy that she was home. And now I want her to go back because all she does is cry. No. But yeah, she's doing really good now. I took her to her 2 months appointment, and she gained 2 pounds, so she weighs 13 pounds now. I don't know how much she weighs now because that child can eat. But yeah, I just want to, it's been 30 minutes, oh my gosh. It's gonna be a long one. So yeah, I just want to tell you her birth story. I think it's very unique because it really worked my faith. If you made it this long, if this far, put in the comments that God is good, that God is faithful. But yeah, it really, really made me work my faith. So I just want to reach out to anybody that's having a hard time right now. Just keep at it, keep going, don't give up, because that's what the enemy wants. He wants you to give up, but God has the last word, and he's always faithful, and he's always on time. So yeah.